Hello everyone! I'm going to share with you how to make some awesome Navajo fry bread as well as some Navajo tacos. Are you ready? Let's get started. So first we're going to make our fry bread, and some people just call it fry bread. Some people refer to it as Navajo fry bread. Either way, I'm going to share with you how to make it. I'll also share with you my recipe for Mexican Picadillo, which is what we're going to be using for our Navajo tacos. So first, for our fry bread, I'm using unbleached all-purpose flour, and I'm using 2 cups of all-purpose flour that I've gone on and I've leveled off. Then I'm using 1 teaspoon of regular table salt. Now, one of my very best friends, we've been friends since 7th grade, she's Native, and one thing she wanted me to share with y'all is that Bluebird flour. If you're in the area where Bluebird flour is sold, she says that's the best flour to make fry bread. Okay, so if you can get your hands on that, that is the best flour. She highly recommends it. Now next I put in some baking powder, and I put in 3 teaspoons of baking powder. Okay, now once you have your flour, your salt, and your baking powder, you want to take a fork and mix those ingredients together well before we add in our liquid. So for our liquid, we're going to be using 1 cup of milk, and you want to drizzle your milk all over, just like I'm doing. Drizzle it all over your ingredients. Don't just pour it in one spot. You want to drizzle it all over. Now for our milk, I'm using 2% milk, but you can use either 2% milk or whole milk. Then I take my fork and you go in a circle just like I'm doing. You see how I'm going in a circle with my fork, and you want to rotate your bowl and go in a circle and keep making a circle with your fork as you're gathering up your dough. And you see what ends up happening is that your dough starts to pull away from the sides of the bowl, and you end up having a nice doughy ball right in the center. Your dough is going to be sticky, and you want your dough to be sticky. It should not be dry. If your dough is dry, add a little bit more milk, about a teaspoon at a time, until your dough becomes nice and sticky. Now on your countertop, you want to have a nice clean countertop. Put down a little bit of flour, and this was about a tablespoon of flour that I put down. And with your milk, you want your milk to be at room temperature. And you can always put your milk in the microwave for about 5 seconds at a time, just to kind of knock the chill off of your milk so you can use nice room temperature milk. Now our dough is nice and sticky, and you can also take your fingertips and just kind of dip them in a little bit of flour as well. But you want to work with your dough like I'm doing here. We want to form our dough into a ball, and we're going to work it until it's nice and smooth. You can add a little bit of flour at a time as needed, about 1 to 2 tablespoons at the most. And you see how I'm pressing and pushing. I'm using the palm of my hand to push my dough away from me, and I use my fingertips to bring it back to me. So you press with your palm, then you rotate, and then you also want to fold your dough over. So you see how I did that, how I used my fingertips to fold my dough in half. And then I'm just using just a little bit of flour. So you always want to have a little bit of flour on your surface, and you just keep pressing and pushing. This is kneading your dough, so that way you're building up that nice texture. You're building up that gluten and that texture, and it's going to make that nice fry bread that we're looking for. Also, with your fry bread, if you're not able to use milk, you can substitute the milk for water. So you would use 1 cup of room temperature water in place of the 1 cup of milk. So I worked my dough for about 8 minutes, kneading it, making it nice and smooth. And then when you touch on it, you see those indentations? You should have a slight indentation, and they should slowly start to spring back. And the difference between using the milk or the water is just that the milk will give your fry bread a little bit more of a fluffier texture, but the water, it comes out great, and your fry bread will have a wonderful taste. So what I do next is that I start to gather into small balls, about egg-sized balls, about like large egg, extra large egg-sized balls. I gather those up, and I put them on my cutting board. My cutting board, I have a piece of plastic wrap, and I just kind of tuck it under there, and that's to keep my dough from drying out as I form my balls. When it comes to frying and forming your fry bread, there's no right way or wrong way. There's just different ways. I'm going to share with you a few different ways to make your fry bread. and how to make a quick dessert by using your fry bread as well. And I have forgotten to introduce myself, so if you are new to my channel, welcome in. My name is Dyvonne, and on my channel, I share what I love to cook and bake for my family in my kitchen. I share recipes from my mom, my aunties, recipes that have been shared with me or given to me, or different things that I just have loved to make or bake throughout the years. So it's my pleasure to share my kitchen with you. And if you enjoy the content, I hope you consider subscribing. When it comes to forming my circles, the best way that I have found is that I take my dough and I put it between my thumb and my finger, just like this. I put it between my thumb and my finger, and I gather enough that's about the size of an egg, and then I just squeeze. I squeeze my hand, and then that way I can kind of get just the amount that I'm looking for. Then I take the dough and I gather it into just like a nice pillow. So I call that a pillow. So I just kind of gather it like that, and then I twist it at the end, at the very end. And so that way I can gather it into a ball. Now this one is going to be a smaller one. This smaller one, I'm going to share with you how to make a dessert by using a smaller size one. I then cover everything with a damp cloth, and we're going to let our dough rest for 20 minutes before we roll it out. So our dough has been resting for 20 minutes, and we're going to go ahead and roll it out. And this is enough dough to make about 12 medium-size fry breads. When I say medium-size, about a 6-inch diameter, about that size. And what we're going to do is you want to take your dough, and I just go ahead and I flatten it out, and then I start from the center. You want to start from the center and roll towards you. Then I flip it and I also roll towards me. If it gets a little sticky, you can put some flour on your rolling pin, or either you can just go ahead and take your fry bread and just kind of go back and forth and kind of dust it with a little bit more flour. And again, I just take my rolling pin and I go towards me. Now, something else is that the different ways that you can make your fry bread that I had mentioned earlier, you can roll your dough out thin. And so your fry bread is going to be thin. It'll still have that puffiness to it, but it'll be a little bit thinner. And then also you can roll it out a little bit thicker. So you can roll it out thick or thin, kind of depending on how you want to have your fry bread fry up. Also, you can roll it out small and thick as well. And those are the ones that we're going to be using, and I'm going to share with you on how to use those to make a dessert. So I've rolled out my dough, and this is about the size that I'm looking for, around about that 6-inch diameter, round about that size. And then what you want to do is you want to poke a hole right in the center, because this is going to help it not to puff up right in the direct center, because we do want to put our fixings in the center, and so you want to kind of do that. Also, I'm dusting off any excess flour, because that's going to help to keep our oil nice and fresh as we fry up our dough. This one that I'm rolling out is going to be a slightly smaller, and it's also going to be a little bit thicker. I'm not going to stretch the dough as much, so it's going to give us that nice extra puff and rise that we're looking for. So let's go ahead and start to fry these up. I have my nice hot oil. I'm using vegetable oil, and I have a couple of inches of vegetable oil in my pan. I have my flame is on a high flame because I want my oil to be nice and hot. It's only going to take about a minute, about maybe say 30 to 40 seconds, give or take, per side for our fry bread to go ahead and cook up nicely. And a couple of quick tips to share is that when you put your fry bread in, you want to make sure that the last edge, that last piece that goes into your hot skillet, is away from you, because that's the side that's going to tend to kick up a little bit of grease, and you don't want to have any of that hot grease coming back at you. And you only want to flip your fry bread once, twice at the most. You don't want to flip it a lot back and forth, because the more you flip back and forth in the oil, your fry bread will end up being tough, and you don't want that. This next one is a little bit smaller, and I rolled it out a little bit thicker. And again, I put that last part away from me. And you see how it's really puffing up and it's getting nice and fluffy. So with that same dough, you can form it different ways. Also, with the recipe, you can definitely double the recipe if you like, if you're going to be making a lot for a good amount of people. Or you can also cut the recipe in half if you're just going to be cooking for just 2 or 3 people. And something else that you'll notice is that when the fry bread on one side starts to get a nice, beautiful golden color, your bubbles will go from being really intense to kind of slowing down once your fry bread is starting to cook and it's cooked all the way through. And again, when you have those puffy balls, those puffy little bubbles right there, I know we just want to pop them, but you want to keep them just like that, because that definitely is the character of the fry bread. This last one is going to be the dessert one, and so I've made it even a little bit smaller, and I've also made it a nice and thick as well. Now, when you're putting your dough into your pan, make sure you dust off any excess flour, because you want to try to keep your oil as clean as possible. So be sure to dust off any excess flour. You're definitely going to end up with some flour on the bottom of your pan, but you try to just dust off as much as you can before putting your dough into your hot oil. And if you wanted to make one of those really big fry breads that you see in restaurants and eateries, what you would do is you would make your dough ball bigger, more so a size closer to a baseball than you would closer to an egg. Just a bigger dough ball rolled out will give you that huge fry bread that you'd see like in eateries. Now for our dessert one, while it's still hot, I'm going to sprinkle on a little bit of cinnamon sugar. This is my homemade cinnamon sugar recipe. In the description box below, I'll put a list of ingredients for the cinnamon sugar as well as a list of ingredients for our fry bread. I will also have my Mexican picadillo recipe below and the video link that goes with that. Well, these are our fry breads from thin to thick. I have gone on and taken one. I've put my picadillo on there. I've put some beans on top. I'm going to go ahead and put all of our fixings on top of that. This is a really great filling meal. You can make it definitely budget friendly because you're making your fry bread yourself. And if you don't want to use meat, you can definitely just use refried beans, or just like beans of the olla, which is just the beans that you boiled in the pot, and put your cheese on top and just have it like that with your fry bread and your beans and your cheese. I have our lettuce, our tomatoes, our salsa. I put some sour cream and I topped it off with a nice piece of fresh cilantro. Now this is going to be a big bite. Are y'all ready for your big bite? Okay, this bite's for you. Go ahead and take your bite. Now I'm going to take my bite and see how we did today with our Navajo tacos. Oh my goodness. This is so good, y'all. And the Navajo fry bread. This fry bread has come out nice, soft. Now, if you have not had fry bread before, but you've had one of those chalupas from Taco Bell, think of that. But y'all, this is better because this is homemade, and you know we made this with some love. So let's put this aside so we can go ahead and try our dessert. Now, when it comes to using our fry bread for dessert, you can definitely just get creative and make it all different kind of ways. I've done the cinnamon sugar with mine, topped it with some vanilla ice cream. I'm going to put a little bit of this caramel sauce on top as well. You can also use chocolate sauce if you like, hot fudge, and make sundaes, and do several of these and make a sundae bar for the family if you like. You can just have the cinnamon sugar with them. You can go on and put apples on top. So there's different kind of ways that you can go ahead and work this fry bread. Well, let's go ahead and dig into this. Let me see here now. You know what, y'all? I'm going to put this spoon down. I'm just going to have to pick it up because we family. I'm just going to pick this up. Y'all take your bite. Did you take your bite? I'm going to take my bite. Oh my goodness. We have made a complete meal with dessert. I hope y'all give this recipe a try. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, don't forget to show it some love. Give it a thumbs up and click share. And share this video with a friend or family. And remember to click that notification bell so you can come back and visit me again in my kitchen. And remember, it's always good when Dyvonne is cooking for the family. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.